Hey guys. So, in today's podcast, we have a very special person with us. Some of you may know him as Life Math Money. He actually is one of the most popular influencers who's come out to guide and mentor young men, especially young Indian men, NRIs, and actually a worldwide audience, but someone who really holds his own traditional values pretty close to heart. From what I've seen, Harsh, that's I think you're the sort of person who doesn't compromise on that, right?
I would like to think that for sure.
Yeah, because I've seen that, like a lot of people, maybe they kind of feel a little embarrassed about these things, but I've seen with you, you don't like make compromise on that. So that is also pretty interesting, because in the space in which my audience generally operates, like on Twitter and all these social media outlets, and many people in your audience as well, people do see this, a lot of these problems with society, right?
Hmm.
The decline of traditional values, whether generally be Hinduism in our society or in other societies, other religions and their traditional gender norms and values. So, and that is kind of linked to the topic which we'll actually be discussing today, right?
Okay.
That how do we actually go about embracing masculine ideals, masculine values in our life? And an interesting tweet, Harsh, I'll actually share the link with you also.
Hmm.
1 or 2 days ago, someone tweeted this thing, and this is very accurate. You'll find this very accurate. Why do Indian parents, Indian families, always try to stop you from doing the things which will actually improve, let's say, your body's fitness levels, your lifestyle? Let's say parents are very against whey protein. They think it's all chemicals and this and that industrial stuff. They think if you're spending too much time playing sports and not studying, that's all wrong. You should not go to the gym. You should just be with books. And they don't really promote that sort of holistic, like a lot of Indian parents, I think middle class families especially, they don't promote that holistic, physical growth, right? That all rounded sort of mindset. It's just like you crack this exam, you get the job, and then you just keep working for a salary, right? Your fitness goes to hell, your business ideas go to hell, and you just keep on following this set path. So and that is, I think, which a lot of young guys feel, that this is where like families essentially need to be supportive and not really create obstacles, I think. Do you agree with that? Like, it's a problem.
It is a problem for sure, and I will tell you why this happens. And you mentioned two different things actually. So, firstly, I will address the issue with why the culture of fitness in India is not really promoted by
Yeah,
people's parents and families, etc.
yeah,
And a lot of it has to do with the fact that India historically, not historically, but say in the last 30 years, India has really come out of poverty. Before
yeah,
1991 or 1994, you could say India was a really, really poor country. And there are
yeah,
no flattering ways to put it. And
yeah,
back in those days, you could be really fit, but if you could not make money, then you would be poor forever and your life would be shit. So naturally, people adopted the mindset where money is everything. And how do you get money? Well, you get money by following, being very educated, focusing on your studies, and then getting a job for most people or starting a business
yeah,
in certain families. So
yeah,
the values were essentially that you have to be ultra focused on your studies and then find a good job or, start a business.
right.
Things like health and fitness are
Backseat.
secondary to money
Yeah,
simply because of the circumstances in which our parents grew up in. Their
right.
values will always prioritize money, having a better job, etc., because that's what brought status to them back in the day because they were poor. So when
Yeah.
you're poor and you're fit, it's less statusful than when you're rich and you're unfit. You know what I mean? So
Harsh, if you don't mind, I'll actually tell a lot of people who are listening to this. They might not know about this, but you mentioned this before, that you're like a trendsetter in your family, right? You've seen the village life, you've seen the urban life, and I think you're the first person in your family who actually went on and did like a CA course and started out on his own. You didn't have any like big backing or a lot of money or anything like that. It was all like on your own.
I don't think anyone can honestly claim that they did everything on their own, because my
Right.
family did support me a lot, especially when I was
Right.
much younger. My family sacrificed a lot to send me to a good school.
Of course.
My
Right.
father and mother are not uneducated, but they are educated
Right.
in their local languages back in the day. So
Right.
I would not say that. I will say that if I have seen further or gone ahead, it is because I got to stand on my family's shoulders,
Right.
especially my father and mother. So I think that it would not be right for me to claim credit. And I
Right.
totally understand their point of view in the sense, I had the same issue, right? For
Hmm.
example, my family
They'd
also
also want you to crack some exam and yeah,
not exactly
maybe
cracked some exam, but they also wanted me to be
get
more
a yeah.
focused on say studies and fitness.
Right.
But
Right.
they did see the value of fitness. They weren't
They
anti-fitness.
didn't dissuade you from fitness as such.
Yeah. So to be honest, like my mother bought me the first gym membership when I was 16 years
Oh
old.
wow, man. That's I think that's a pretty unusual thing for an Indian mom to do generally, right?
Yeah, but I was not really
Because
fit at all back then.
acha, okay, so she really wanted you to
Yeah.
seem like a normal thin kid.
You could say that, but what I'm
Yeah.
saying is that you cannot blame your family for your
Right.
failures,
Of
because
course.
unless
Yeah.
your family is less likely to be evil and more likely to just be ignorant about certain things. If you take whey
Yeah.
protein, for example, you mentioned this earlier. Why do a lot of Indian parents think that whey protein are steroids? Because they
Yeah.
don't know much about it, and because whey protein is so expensive that
Yeah.
in their mind it's in a different category from say Bonvita
Yeah.
or Horlicks.
Right.
So an Indian
It
parent
actually seems like something which might actually have very adverse effects, or they don't really understand it, right?
yeah, they don't understand it, and because it's expensive. In the sense, if whey protein was cheap, okay, if you could buy whey
Hmm.
protein at the price of Bonvita, then
Yeah, I think they wouldn't
they
question it
wouldn't
that
question
much.
it, because then it would be in the same category. But because
Yeah.
it's expensive, because it's not cheap, then
Yeah.
you have questions. Okay, then if it's so expensive, what is it doing? If it's
Actually, like for any middle class family, I think if the boy is in the late teens, early 20s and doesn't have an income, it's a pretty big burden. Like a lot of these supplements and stuff, right? Like financially,
yeah, it is
eh,
expensive.
yeah,
So it isn't, in the sense, for someone who's ignorant, in the sense, someone who has not studied
yeah,
about whey protein, it is not too far fetched to conclude that this must be some synthetic chemical which is not good for the person's
yeah,
health. Because it's so expensive, it's only used by all these gym guys and it's promising to make you
yeah,
fitter. So, what does that
yeah.
sound
It
like? It
seems
sounds
like a
like steroids.
shortcut. Yeah,
So, I would not say that they are trying to stop you out of malice. It is just
it's just
ignorance.
ignorance. Yeah,
I do think that
true.
a lot of people, though, a lot of parents in India, I would say, are very close minded in the sense that if you try to convince them and like, actually teach them something.
Harsh, would you use the word risk averse about Indian society in general? I think,
Yes, I would say that they are very risk
yeah,
averse because
yeah,
it's how the society has been, right? Like
yeah,
every society has different culture. Like Indian people tend to be more risk averse than say Westerners, who will move
yeah,
out at a very young age and etc. So I'm not saying one is better than the other, because you can definitely see that the West has its own problems, but we're
yeah,
trying to address the problems that we have in India.
right.
So there are a lot of parents who are not open minded enough to learn more about something, in the sense that even if you teach your mother about whey protein's health benefits, she will not
Yeah.
believe you.
Yeah, she'll reject that information as some
Yeah.
voodoo science, I guess.
So a lot of it comes down to persuasion. How do you actually convince
Right,
people? And
right.
sometimes, like if you have to, you just have to outright lie. In the sense
Do
that
you think, Harsh, like in general, you were lucky that your parents were like more trusting or more willing to listen in general? Or do you think, like in general, they were just like any other Indian parents?
I would say that my family has been very supportive of me and all my
Okay,
choices, and
right.
also the
In
fact
your
that
business endeavors as well, right?
yes, and my business endeavors as well.
Yeah,
And yeah, my family has been very good to me. I can totally sympathize with people who have not as supportive families, because I have friends
right.
who live alone, not because they want to live alone, but because they have to live
Their
alone.
families, yeah,
because their families are too annoying and too overbearing, where they try to make
Yeah,
all
that
the
yeah,
decisions for this person, and they don't realize
yeah.
that someone at 19 years old is
Hmm.
an adult and he wants his own
Right.
freedom to make his own choices.
Yep.
For example, recently I had someone who is 22 years old reach out to me telling me that, what do I do? I can't eat eggs. And I was telling him, like,
Hmm.
why can't you eat eggs? Like his answer is that my mother won't allow it.
Okay.
And at the age of 22, if you have to get
Hmm.
your mother's permission to eat something, then you can already
That's
judge from that,
pretty
right?
bad. Yeah. Especially I think if you're a guy, I mean that it doesn't make any sense. Like you're still asking your mother, can I go out? Can I eat this? Can I order this? Like, are you really like fit to be like a leader of a family then, like at that point? If everything is anyways going to be decided by your mother
Exactly, exactly. So it should, I would say that a lot of parents raise their child in,
in such a way, right?
yeah, in
Like
such a
where
way
they keep controlling them. Yeah.
to make them think that the real definition of a man or a real son is someone who just obeys. So
Right.
if you obey, you're
Right.
good. If you don't obey, you're bad.
Harsh,
Which
do you think
is a
this is
lot like
just
raising a
Indian
slave.
culture or like internationally also you've seen this quite commonly that kids are expected to be quite obedient? Like in other cultures you've encountered, like maybe the East or Middle East and all? Or is it really just India where this is a bit too extreme?
I would not say it's just India. It really depends. International is a big word, but if you take China, for example,
Right.
the Chinese society is somewhat similar to how things are in India.
Yeah, very filial and like you obey the father, father obeys grandfather, like that, right?
Yes, but even in the West, it was like this for a long time, I think. I'm not an expert on other cultures, right?
Right.
I'm not a Westerner, so I have an outside
Um,
person's view.
by the way, like, if you don't mind me asking, like, are you in India these days or are you abroad?
It depends.
Acha, okay, okay, yeah, we can discuss this later as well.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, please go on.
So even Western cultures differ in the sense that there are certain countries which are more freedom oriented, certain countries which are more traditional.
Right, I think Northern Europe versus Southern divide, right? Like Southern, I think kids tend to stay with the parents for a longer period of time and stuff. Greece, Italy, those countries.
Yeah, so cultures differ from place to place,
Yeah,
and there are advantages and disadvantages to both. For
yeah,
example, if you are being kicked out of your house at 18, well, then you have
yeah.
to waste the next 7, 8 years just to get a basic footing. Like someone who
Right.
moves at 18 has to work a job because, he can't do anything else. He needs the money to pay the rent
Right.
and he needs to pay for
Hence, we see
food,
so many of like young people in the West working at McDonald's and KFC and these kind of basic service jobs
which is a waste
initially.
of talent, isn't it?
Yeah, essentially waste of like prime years, right?
Exactly. So
If you're doing it full time, I mean, you're not studying, you're not like growing, right?
yes, it's a dead end thing where,
Yeah.
well, like they can make an argument where it teaches you character, but a lot of things teach
Hmm.
you character, and this is a very
Yeah,
inefficient
but
way
and
to
the thing
learn
is, dude,
character.
like you don't need like 8 years of a waitering job to teach you character. I mean, I'm sure like 6, 7 months would be more than enough.
Yes, I do think that a lot of people in India would benefit from more fitness, more
Right.
exercise, and I do think nowadays the culture is moving towards that.
That.
More and more
Yeah.
people are going to the gym, more and more
Yeah.
people respect fit bodies, and I see more
Right.
people looking better, exercising more, eating less oil,
Right.
etc. So
Harsh,
things
would
are
you
in the
say
right
that this
direction.
is mostly men, or like you've noticed this with men, women, both genders in India?
I've noticed this with both men and women actually.
Okay, so
I've no
everyone in general.
Everyone in general is trying to be healthier lately. I would not say, like, it's like goes from top to bottom in a way, in the sense that the people in the cities are more likely to have a culture of fitness than someone living
Yeah,
in a tier 2 city or a village.
yeah,
But
and more
as time
access
goes
to
on,
facilities also, right? Generally,
Yes, there is access. That is also a factor. But the reason that the
Yeah.
city people have access to it is because there is demand for it.
Okay. So essentially, even in tier two cities, if people actually really wanted to, these things would crop up
No,
pretty
tier
quickly.
two cities already have a lot of gyms and fitness centers. Like it would be
Okay.
a lie to say that they don't. Like even my
Tier two
village has
cities,
a
we're generally
gym.
talking about places like, let's say, Lucknow, Jaipur, these kind of places.
These places have
Bhopal.
gyms. I've been to Jaipur. They have gyms.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Jaipur, I think, is a fairly big city also.
Yeah, they have
Like,
good food.
yeah, Rajasthani food, man. Brilliant.
Kachori.
Yeah.
Very fried though. Very
We
very fried.
Pahadis really need to learn some cuisine making skills from them.
Where are you from?
I'm from Uttarakhand, actually, Western Uttarakhand. So we are hill people. Uh, I'm actually currently in Pune though.
Hmm.
So yeah, so most of my cuisine adventures are local pav bhaji type of stuff these days. Not any special party food.
Uttarakhand is very very beautiful.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You've been there like a few times.
Yeah, I've been there quite a few times.
Oh, nice. Like which places? Like Masuri,
Yeah, I've been to Missouri.
Pithoragarh, I guess Munsiari,
I've been to Missouri.
Nainital.
I've been to the Char Dham Yatra.
Yeah, Char Dham. Yeah, Char Dham. That's a life changing experience. I think you must have really felt that. Like you actually do feel close to God when you're there. No.
I went in 2011, so I was like
Okay.
14 years,
Well,
15 years old, I think.
okay.
But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I think we did three dhams. We did Yamunotri, and we did
Acha.
Badrinath,
And
and we did
Kedarnath.
Gangotri.
Okay, Gangotri, not Kedarnath.
Not
Okay.
Kedarnath, because there was a lot of traffic there, and we had a
Okay.
grandma with us,
Right.
so we had to skip this one.
Okay.
I think
Actually,
this is the one.
Kedarnath is the one which is very close to my ancestral place in
Mhm.
Uttarakhand. So yeah, I mean, if you do go there again, definitely I would certainly recommend you cover that as well. And a lot of other places also, like non-religious sites. I think Munsiari you must have heard of
I have no
on
idea.
the eastern side. Okay, Munsiari is supposed to be, I think, like probably like a better version of Masuri, like better snow and like better views generally,
Hmm.
and quite a few places opening up for skiing also if you're into snowboarding and skiing and stuff. Like Ollie, I think you might have heard. It's fairly like well known these days in Uttarakhand.
I have no idea.
Yeah, but it's actually like fairly accessible now. Like in winters, if you go, it's a pretty decent like time you can have like away from the world and just trying out stuff.
I've been meaning to go trekking near Uttarakhand and the Dehradun areas,
Okay, right.
but that is maybe for a couple of months from now, not right now.
Okay. Like are you like in the sense are you like preparing your body or like you're prepared but you want to plan more like when you have free time?
I'm really busy with business right now. We're
Oh,
working
okay.
on the teacher self crypto course, and
Right.
I don't want to like
Oh
disappear for
wow.
like 15, 20 days at this moment because the team is working really
Right.
hard and we're getting a
Right.
lot of
And you
support.
must be managing like all these people and just directing how things will work out.
You could say that in a sense, but also the fact that I'm promoting it takes
Right.
some time.
Right. Harsh, in fact, if you can tell us a little bit more because people are really interested in crypto, like my audience, I can tell you, and a lot of these young guys. So if you can like maybe just spend like 2 minutes, tell us like what's the course about.
So the course is on teachyourselfcrypto.com, and it is the
Okay,
best course on the internet on crypto, which teaches you from scratch. So you don't have to know anything, and we'll teach
okay,
you everything from zero, okay, from scratch. What is money? All the
right,
way until the end of DeFi privacy coin. So you will learn every single thing about Ethereum,
right,
Bitcoin, DeFi,
right.
NFTs, privacy coins,
Wow.
Moneros, and you will be an expert by the end of
Like
it.
you'll get to know the theory and how to trade and all those things, right?
No, we're
Like
not a
essentially you'll be
course
able
on
to.
trading. We're a course on how the
Okay,
technology works, what it actually
okay,
is.
okay.
Because
So more like a fundamental understanding of the technology
yeah,
rather than
it's an
a
understanding of
technical.
what
Huh.
it is. And
Right.
it's a free course completely free. So you can go to
Seriously,
teachyourselfcrypto.com and you can check it out. Yeah, the course
man,
is completely free.
you're really like giving away almost like gold for free. Like, but why would you? I mean, I'm just like curious. If you're like a business person, right? If
Mhm.
you've worked so hard on a product, like I don't understand. Like, why would you actually give it out for free? Like, I'm just asking. Like, I'm not saying it's wrong, but like,
So when we started
uh,
making the course, it was back in Feb 2021, so last year. And
right,
back then, I didn't know anything about crypto. Like I knew it
okay.
existed and I had invested some money in it.
Are
But
you self-taught in the field?
yes,
Okay,
and but I wasn't like an expert. I didn't understand why it is the way it is, etc. So I thought,
right,
let me learn more about it. And
right,
then I thought, okay, if I'm going to learn more about it, why not I also summarize everything I learned?
right.
So Teach Yourself Crypto started as a website of me and two other people, Sergio from yourcodingteacher.com and Ash from
Okay.
Persuasion Profits.
In a way, you were posting your study notes, right?
Yeah, so in
Like
a way, it was us just studying about
learning and
crypto
teaching this.
and
Yeah,
then putting the best stuff on Teach Yourself Crypto so that other people can also
right,
use it. So
right.
we created the course for
Harsh,
ourselves.
is the website live? Can I share it if
Yeah, the
that's
website
possible?
is live. It's been live since
Oh,
last year.
awesome. So, do you mind if I share it?
Yes,
Uh,
of course. Please go ahead.
uh, teachyourselfcrypto.com, right?
Yes, teachyourselfcrypto.com.
Okay. I think a lot of information must already be there. I think the intro and all.
Yeah, all of it is there right now. It's almost completely ready. The V1. We're going to
Okay,
work on it more and more, of course.
that's
And
amazing.
lately, we've launched a system called verified certificates, where the course is free, but if you want a certificate from us saying that you've completed the course and you want to
Okay,
put it on LinkedIn or your resume, then that's paid. It's very cheap. Anyone can afford it, and it'll help you get a job. Like it'll make
okay,
your resume better.
right. Like, would you say like a permanent sort of position or like more like freelance projects and stuff? Could be anything.
Could be anything. You have the knowledge, right? Once you do the course, you
Right,
have the knowledge. You're an expert. So you can
right.
put it in your resume that you can show that you have a certificate, because it's one thing that you say, okay, I am an expert, and one thing to be a certified expert, because employers typically value certifications. They want some kind of evidence, because anyone can claim anything. I can say that I'm 6 feet tall and I am 5 feet
Yeah,
wide. Oh no, 6 feet is a normal. I'm 10 feet tall and 5 feet wide, and anyone can say that. But how does someone who doesn't know you verify that? So that's where the
yeah,
certification comes in. It really makes your resume better.
yeah. It's a little cheesy, the caption. I hope you don't mind, man. Yeah, I'll send it to you. Yeah, yeah. I'm kind of pointing out that you're being a bit too generous for a business person. And especially Indians, I think we don't have a reputation for being like too charitable and all, no? Like Indians have the like a cutthroat sort of reputation, I think, in business.
It depends. It really depends. On what? Why do you think we have a reputation for being cutthroat?
I think maybe it's just stereotypes, but I have kind of noticed. So like Harsh, when I was a kid, right, for a
Mhm.
couple of years, we lived in parts of Africa, right, Botswana, and if you've heard of the country near South Africa. So
Mhm.
in a lot of these places, the primary trading communities generally used to be Indians, right? A lot of these merchant groups, in fact, like communities, even like we can identify as like merchant communities in India,
Mhm.
like Patels, Banyas, and all. So what would happen is that people would notice that all of a sudden these people are coming from India. They don't have a lot of money. They are somewhat educated. They're hardworking, and suddenly within a few years they control all the like the money making businesses, right? So people would naturally assume that these people are just cutthroat and like brutal, right? Which is like obviously like, it's a stereotype. Could be just because of hard work, could be because of competence,
And
right? You don't
intelligence,
have to become like
confidence.
Idi Amin and paint
Yeah.
everyone as a psychopath.
I would say that a lot of people from India are very good at business if they put their minds to
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
There is
I
also
think
some selection
India
bias.
it has that natural. I mean, I don't know, like culture, right? Especially, I think parts of Gujarat, Rajasthan, and all, like what they call, I think, dhando culture and like trading. culture generally.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think so I'm sorry, how exactly did you get interested towards accountancy and all? Like in your community, did they have like a traditional system of accounting as well?
The reason I went into accounting was after 12th, I was a commerce student
Right,
and I wasn't really sure what the best education is.
right.
My family said CAs. All my friends were doing CA, so I did
It
CA.
seemed like a well paid field, to be fair.
I didn't really consider all of that back then, to be honest.
Okay.
It just was how the wind blew, and I wasn't that intentional when I was in
Did you
12th.
feel scared? Like, what if I don't crack it? Like, because like CA is not a very easy exam, right? It's very difficult. Like,
So there are
a
certain
very low
CAs
pass
in my
rates.
family, right? So it wasn't
Okay.
like
Right.
completely unknown to me. Plus, I
Right.
was always very intelligent, so I was not worried
Okay.
about failing the exam. Like I knew I would make it.
Oh wow. Yeah, I mean, like if you have that natural confidence, but a lot of people you talk to them, they aren't really sure, right? They have commerce or subjects like that, and then they don't really know what to do. Parents and people just tell them, okay, beta CA kar lo. This is going to pay you well, and they do it, and they're not really sure what they're doing, and eventually, that's what happens, right? In a lot of, I think, even like medical engineering, even law, like the field I come from,
Mm-hmm.
people just get into it for the sake of it because someone told them that this is going to pay you well or this is a good career choice,
Mm-hmm.
and they're actually maybe not smart enough for that, and then they fail, and they get into that vicious circle where they're continuously failing. And like, even let's say if they graduate and all, like in India, like millions and millions of these people just sitting for government exams again and again and again till they're
Mm-hmm.
like 30, 35, wasting their lives. I mean, it's probably one of the biggest tragedies in the modern world, I think. Like, if you look at the youth.
I tend to agree with you there. It's a tragedy. I have some thoughts on why this happens. My first thought is that someone who is at 16 years of age, it's very difficult for him to know whether he can or cannot do certain things, in the sense that how does someone who is 16 years old
Huh.
decide what he wants to do for the rest of his life?
Right.
And that is difficult in the sense, I remember when I was 16, I didn't know. Like, I was clueless. So it seems
Hmm.
like a rational choice for most of them to listen to
But
their.
like you said, you did have some like relative, like uncles and all, who were
My
already
father is
CAs.
a CA.
Oh wow. Okay, so you did have that guidance that, okay, this field, this is what happens, and these are the opportunities you'll get in this field, right? Like my dad's a lawyer as well, like in the army,
Hmm.
and my grandfather, before he passed away, he was also a lawyer. So you kind of have these family traditions, right? Like people kind of tell you, okay, if you just do this, which your family has been doing for some time, it's a relatively safer option. That's how it seems, right?
It
Of course,
is
I'm not saying it's easy, but yeah,
safer because your family has
guidance.
experience in that field, right?
Right, right. You're not like building the Titanic from scratch, so to speak, right? You have like a base.
It is the safe choice to make in many cases. But at
Yeah.
the end, it comes down to the fact that when you're that young, how do you make a risky choice? See, I'll give you my
Hmm.
background, okay? My father, when he was a kid, he was a farmer, okay?
Right.
He had his education in the local language,
Okay.
and he did his CA also in the local language, and he
Right.
knows some English now, of course. Like
Right.
he learned over time.
Right.
When I was born, my family moved to a city because they didn't want me to become a farmer. They thought
Okay.
it's a tough
So
life.
you got English language exposure from the get go then.
No, not exactly get go. So in the sense that when I moved to a city, okay, my family moved to the city. We were really really poor. Like my father's
Okay.
job, I think, paid like $50 a month,
Oh man.
and
Do you mind me asking, like, roughly what period would this be? Early 2000s something?
1996 7.
Okay. Okay, so you must have been like a toddler or
Yeah,
something
when I
then,
was
right?
like born. Like, maybe a
right.
few months after me being born.
Hmm.
So 95, I think. I don't, yeah, I think it should be 95.
Yeah, I think the economy also hadn't really taken off
Yeah, it
that
really
time.
hadn't back
It's
then.
more
So
like early 2000s, mid
it
2000s.
was
Yeah.
really hard for me to find a school for me because schools
Okay.
have this thing where you need to have a house, etc. And we were
Yeah.
living on like a smallish place and on rent, and money was tight.
Yeah.
So
And some of these schools, what they do, they actually even test the parents and stuff. It's pretty weird. They're like, okay, we won't test your kid, but we want to make sure that the dad and the mom are like proper, college educated people, and then only we'll give admission. It's a very, classist Indian stuff which happens. I think you might have heard about stuff like this happening.
I would not say it's Indian in the sense that it doesn't happen anywhere else.
Yeah,
But I
right.
would
I
say
think in
that
China also it does to some extent.
no, I would say the reason for this is that if you take a private school, for example, their
Hmm.
ultimate selling point is that they have better teachers and the fact that the other students
They
there
get
are also on the same level as your
right.
family students. So if they start taking
They
anyone,
portray it as they get the results, right? And they're getting the results because they're getting the elite students,
yes,
right?
you can say that. But at the end of the day, why is a rich family going to pay a lot
Hmm.
of money to put their kid in the school?
Yeah.
Because other
Yeah.
rich families are doing the same thing and they want this
I
kid
see,
to.
like you're thinking of it from a proper, like a business perspective. I'm getting a little more sentimental about these things. But yeah, you maintained a more logical argumentation about that. That's a pretty interesting, yeah, dude, way
I mean,
of putting it.
I haven't like thought about this before. This is just me
Hmm.
off the top of my head, so I could be wrong.
Right. No, I mean, like, actually, it does make sense to me. I'm
So
sure, like, I've also had these to and fro conversations many times. I know sometimes you become more sentimental, sometimes you're a little more logical.
yeah, I think that it's best to have our rational brains ahead
Yeah, yeah,
when trying to figure out the world
yeah,
because the emotions will lead us astray.
right. Very short term way of doing things.
But the end of the day, I don't really blame the school for it. Like I get it. If you take like for
Yeah.
example, why does a rule exist where the you want the family to have their own house and not live on a rented house? Because
Hmm.
the school wants the student to stay, right? The school wants the student to be around till the
Okay.
school ends and
Right.
not just say move after
Hmm.
1 year. And
Right.
having a requirement where the family has a house kind of ensures that in many ways, because someone who lives on rent is
Yeah.
way more likely to just quit the school and move.
Yeah. Right.
So there are different
But
factors involved
Harsh,
here.
how do you feel about people, let's say, who get these admissions, let's say through connections or influence and stuff? Then, like, in that sense, would you still say that these logical arguments make sense, or would you say that is like proper, like, injustice?
The world is not fair.
Right.
So you could say it's injustice,
Yeah.
but the
But
world
you
is
would say
more.
that better not to get into any of that because you can't change it, right?
No, it's not that you can't change it. There are definitely you can
Hmm.
change it if you dedicate a lot of time to it.
Hmm.
But things are getting better. Like everything was like the world was much less fair 50 years ago than it is today. We have more opportunity today than we had 50 years ago. So things are
Would you
getting
say that?
better. But
Would you say that is actually true? Like for the lower classes as well now,
yes,
like they do have more access.
50 years ago, the lower classes did not have access to education. They were considered as
Hmm.
untouchables, and they had a
Hmm.
lot more problems than not having a house and not getting a
Yeah.
school
Now they can at
admission.
least get admission in some school, right?
Yeah, now they're not legally discriminated against. They are
Hmm.
not, you know, they are not teased because they are low caste. So
Right.
I think that we have made a lot of progress in that sense. And
Yeah, I
that's a
think
good thing because the
caste.
caste system was actually evil.
Yeah. So again, this will be from my perspective getting into pretty controversial waters in these parts. I will not go there. But yeah, because yeah, man, it is a Pandora's box on this side. But I get what you're trying to say, that class has become the new caste, right? In a sense,
It's not
that people
caste.
judge
So
you by
there is a
how much
difference,
money you
right?
have rather than.
The problem with the caste system was the fact that there was no way to come out of it. If you were a low
Hmm.
caste person, let's say,
Hmm.
You could do everything right, you could become really rich, and you were still a low
Right.
caste person.
Right.
And with the class system, let's say with money, that is not the case. You can be poor and you can be really rich, and you can change your social hierarchy
So you
level.
feel that the class system is essentially fair that way?
The class system is more meritocratic than the
Okay.
caste system.
Right.
However, there are problems. Like, it isn't perfect meritocracy, right? Like you pointed out, there is nepotism,
Hmm.
connections matter, but it
Right.
is much better than the caste system, in my opinion. I don't think the caste system was very useful for India, and it has been
Harsh,
a
I'll ask you
bit
something about
evil.
your personal experience, okay?
Hmm.
So this is one thing which I've noticed a lot. Like, do you frequently travel to other countries abroad, like especially Western countries and all, or like roughly maybe once in a year or something like that?
No comment.
Okay, fine, yeah. But you have like been around and seen places, right?
Yes.
So, like, do you feel that there is a fundamental difference in the way that Indians perceive status and class, and a lot of people in developed countries see it, right? Because from my personal experience, what it seems like is that, let's say you're in a let's say first world country, in some European capital or whatever, people generally do tend to understand that, okay, there's a person doing a waiter's job or like a blue collar job, and that's also a normal thing. That's a human being, and it could be me doing that day after tomorrow. But in India, it seems like we have a more rigid way of looking at things, right? That my maid is like another, almost like another species,
A second
right?
class
I'm never
citizen.
gonna do that. She's never gonna be me, right? Like,
Yeah, I
we
know where you're coming from. I think that
yeah,
this is.
it seems very weird, like, from an outside perspective. We see it as natural that, they are like not even barely humans. Like, that's essentially the mindset here.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. The reason this is happening is because the gap between your maid and you is so big that
Hmm.
for the most part the maid does not have a hope of crossing it. Versus in,
Yeah.
say, a more developed
Right.
country, a
Yeah.
waiter's income is not that low, in the sense that it isn't garbage. And the other thing is
Right.
the fact that your maid is not educated, she doesn't speak English.
Yeah.
You would feel very differently about your maid if she could speak English.
Right.
The reason you
And let's
see
say if
her.
she had a degree
No,
and,
not no
wore
degree,
different clothes
no
also. Yeah.
degree, no degree.
Hmm.
The
Just the language thing you think
Just a
would
language
change
thing,
everything.
because in India, like,
Hmm.
and of course this is how it would
Do
have
you
been.
subconsciously think you would also still do that sometimes, that treat a person differently depending on the language? I think I would probably subconsciously end up doing that probably
Hey,
in
I
real
have done
life.
that a lot of times and realized that
And
later.
it's nothing to be proud of, but this is how we're raised, right?
It's not how we're raised, it is how human beings are. This is our DNA. In the sense, let me, like, this will
Yeah.
take me like 2 minutes to elaborate. So
Sure. Sure, sure.
if you meet someone, let's
Hmm.
say, and let's take your maid for example. Your maid is not educated, right? She speaks not English, and in India, anyone who's educated knows English.
Right.
You
Yeah.
are less likely to treat someone respectfully if they can't speak English, because your assumption is
Hmm.
that this person is not educated, so they are a savage.
Yeah.
To give
Basically,
you an
yeah.
example, I was recently going somewhere, and
Hmm.
this place has auto rickshaws. I don't know
Hmm.
if you've seen them before.
Yeah, yeah, auto rickshaw. Yeah, like yellow, black, three
And
wheelers, right? Yeah.
it was the three of us, okay? So me, my friend, and another friend of ours.
Right.
So we were asking how much it would cost to go from one place to the other.
Hmm.
And naturally, I was speaking in Hindi.
Hmm.
So the guy says 80 rupees. And for
Hmm.
some weird reason, I thought he meant 80 rupees per person. And, I don't really
Okay.
care. I think that's $1.
Damn.
Cool.
Hmm.
So the three of us
Hmm.
sit, we go there. And then I
Okay.
pay him 240 rupees. Like, I'm giving him 240 rupees. And the guy in perfect English says,
Huh.
"No, sir, it is 80 rupees for
Okay.
the ride. It is not 80 rupees per seat."
Okay.
So if there are only three people, we charge 80 rupees, and if there are four people, we charge 100 rupees. So don't,
Okay.
like, make sure you never pay someone 240 rupees. So the guy didn't take my money. He took 80 rupees for the three of us,
Right.
even though I was paying him 240.
Right.
But the fact that he responded to me in English made me
Huh.
look at him in a completely different way.
Right.
So
Right.
a lot of things come down to how you perceive people, and a lot of it comes
Yeah.
down to how similar they are to you. So if someone can
Right.
speak English, you will think they are educated, you can relate to them
Yeah.
more, and you will treat them in a more,
In
you will
fact,
think of them as the
mm,
same human being as you, and
right.
not like a completely different class of person
Right.
who will never be you and you will never be him.
In fact, if you look at friend circles, dating circles, all these things, these are all constricted by the language factor, right? People don't date downwards into mates who don't speak English, or that language. They don't make friends with people who can't speak English. They don't go to restaurants where the menus are not matlab in English, right? So
Yes,
it's like a holistic environment where you're kind of cut off from what the ground situation actually would be like, right?
yes. But this is not their fault, in the sense that
Hmm.
if I can't speak your language, that
Huh.
makes the two of us being friends very unlikely.
Yeah.
Because friendship at some level has to have some amount of
Right.
effortlessness. If I have to
Right.
take a dictionary and refer every single time when we speak,
Yeah.
I'm not going to want to speak to you because it will take so much work.
Right.
So that factor definitely exists.
Right.
But it is not a conscious discrimination thing. It is
Right.
just how people relate to each other. In the sense, let's
Like
say that
a
you
little
move
off
to
topic.
Africa, okay?
Yeah.
And in Africa, you meet you all everyone. I don't know what they speak in Africa. Let's say Swahili. They're
Hmm.
speaking Swahili, and you don't understand a word of Swahili. How will
Right.
you be friends with them? You can't, and they can't be
Yeah.
friends with
Yeah.
you. But you
Yeah.
meet an
They'll see you
African
as an
guy
outsider, of
who
course.
speaks Hindi.
Huh.
You would be more than happy to talk to him. You would make friends
Exactly.
with him
You will
easily.
immediately bond with that person and trust him more than all the natives, right? Just
Yes,
because of the language factor.
yes,
Even like when you go abroad, many times this happens, right? Generally you wouldn't trust a random person. You see a random Indian and he speaks a bit of Hindi to you, you immediately think that okay, this guy is very trustworthy. And maybe later on you're wrong, but in that moment you feel like, yeah, this guy is my bro.
yeah. You have some affinity towards him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I can give you, like, how if aliens attacked us
Yeah.
frontier, if aliens attacked us, all of us hating the Chinese hating us, all of that will go away. We'll all
Yeah.
suddenly be brothers because we're all humans and the enemy is the
Yeah.
alien.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll probably be working, those slave mines on Mars or something together. All equal slaves, yellow, black, brown.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Harsh, I'm so sorry. Actually, some of the initial questions which I really want to ask you, we actually went really deep into societal questions, which I
Hmm.
generally don't even go into, like in the proper, sociology and political kind of subjects, right? But just to kind of backtrack a little bit,
Hmm.
so with if we can like quickly, let's say, talk about like what masculine values or ideals do you think? I know this is like again going to a different topic entirely
Hmm.
almost, but generally to operate in the world as it is today, right?
Hmm.
For a guy, let's say an Indian guy, right?
Hmm.
Top four masculine ideals he has to embrace. Like, what would you say? Like your top four are?
I want to answer this question in a different way, because
Okay, sure.
me answering it this way will not produce any result. Because
Okay,
people have a lot of ideas about
right.
masculinity in their head.
Hmm. Maybe they'll just make notes and like, okay, ये चार बता दिए, ये कर लेना.
Yeah, but it won't actually make a
Yeah,
difference. So,
yeah, that's true.
have you ever heard this term real man?
A real man,
Yeah.
like in philosophy or like
No, like, how when people say a real man will do this, a real man would
yeah,
do
yeah,
that.
right. Yeah, a real man will open the door for the lady, all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, so a
Wait,
lot of, like, most people, when they think of masculinity, they
right.
think
They
of this
think of stuff.
real man
Yeah.
stuff. They think
Hmm.
that, okay, so what have they heard in this context? A real man will
Hmm.
support his woman, a real man would never cheat on his woman,
Hmm.
a real
That is
man.
basically describing chivalrous ideals, right? Traditional chivalry.
Let me get to it.
So yeah, sure.
So a real
Please.
man would serve his
Hmm.
country, a real man
Right.
will,
Right.
listen to his parents, a real man will do this and
Hmm.
that.
Right.
So for someone who really wants to understand masculinity, you have to first get all of these ideas out of your head, because
Okay.
all of this is manipulation. Like anyone who
Okay.
comes up with some definition of a real
Hmm.
man will this and that
Hmm.
is usually trying to manipulate you into doing what is best for them. Like a
Right.
woman who has cheated on you will say a real man is someone who will
Hmm.
forgive his woman for cheating.
Yeah.
You've seen single women, right, in the West,
Yeah.
single mothers. They will
Yeah.
say a real man is someone who will
Yeah.
raise, a kid that is not his with just
Absolutely.
as much love as if it was his own.
Yeah. That
And
is really devilishly manipulative.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a form of manipulation. Like a real man will
Right.
die for his country.
Yeah. Right.
I'm not saying these ideas are bad. I'm not saying that
Yeah.
fighting for your country is a bad
But you
thing.
can't let yourself be manipulated using these, right? Essentially, that's the.
But these are not the definitions of a real man, in the sense that,
Okay.
okay, if you want to die for your country, that's a good thing.
Hmm.
Personally, there are many situations that I would die for my country. If I see soldiers or
Right.
foreign people here, I'm going to kill them.
Hmm.
So there are like values here and there, but there is no this is not a definition of a real man. Just
Okay.
because someone wants you to be a certain way and they're putting the label
Right.
real man on it, like a real
Hmm.
man will be bold and do this, and a real man will
Hmm.
jump off the cliff, or a
Right.
real man will like bring flowers. All of that is
Yeah.
a form of manipulation to control you. So you have to
Right.
first get the idea of what you consider to be a real man out of your head, because those
Okay.
are likely to be some sort of manipulation to get you to
Right.
behave in
Or
a particular way.
brainwashing in a sense.
Yes. So I will first say, okay, so for the people who are going to
Hmm.
ask, like, what is a real man? If you have a
Hmm.
penis and
Hmm.
balls, you are a real
Hmm.
man. So
Yeah, it's a pretty
let's get that
straightforward.
out of the way, okay? So you could be
Hmm.
like, let me like even give you some clarification. You could cheat on every single woman you
Hmm.
are in
Hmm.
a relationship with. You
Hmm.
could betray your country. You could kill other people. Like you could be a complete
Hmm.
criminal. And if you have a
Hmm.
penis, you are still a real man, okay?
Yeah.
So the qualification for being a real man is having a penis and nothing else.
Hmm.
Now, of course, the question you asked me was a bit different: masculinity and not just being a man, right?
Right.
I would say a man is someone who is strong and
Yeah.
does what is best for him, and does what he like, takes the actions that he needs to achieve the goals he wants over the long term. And these
Right.
there are two factors here. Okay, one, that he does what he needs to do to
Hmm.
achieve the goals that he wants. So
Right.
firstly, these are two separate things. One,
Right.
the first encompassing value is that he does what he needs to do, and
Right,
not what
Harsh.
he feels like to do in the moment. For example, right
Right.
now I might feel like, hey, I should go and have a pizza,
Right.
but my goal is to lose weight. So
Yeah.
what do I do? Do I have the
You will
pizza?
work out instead, right?
Yeah. So are you a person who is able to do what is right for you and
Right.
achieve your goals? Or do
Right.
you just listen to the whims of your body?
Yeah.
Because if you just listen to the whims of your body, you are weak, you are not strong.
Kind of almost like an animal, right? Like,
Yes, almost like an animal, right? What does an animal do?
yeah.
He eats, he sleeps, he fucks, and he dies.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, at some level, you have to have a certain amount of self control, a
Right.
certain amount of judgment, wisdom to say you are masculine, because otherwise
Right.
you are not. Otherwise, you're just an animal. So I would say, in my personal definition of masculinity, I would say someone who rises above the
Hmm.
immediate needs of his body so that he can achieve his
Hmm.
long-term goals.
Harsh, sorry to interrupt. Just want to ask you, what's the best way to, develop that self control? Like, I know it's not an easy question, but what advice would you give? Number one advice from your end.
Firstly, there has to be a real desire to improve, in the sense
Okay.
that if your desire is, let's say, I want to be a rock star, okay?
Hmm.
To be a rock star, let's say I need to learn how to play guitar and I need to
Right.
learn how to sing.
Hmm.
But I never do all of that. I just keep saying I want to be a rock star. Then
Yeah.
I have no desire to improve. I'm just saying that. So there has to be real desire
Hmm.
where you want to take action.
Right.
And
You can't keep daydreaming essentially.
yeah, it can't just be wishes. It has to be
Hmm.
action.
Right.
It
So
has to
essentially,
come
you
from
have to become
within.
action oriented, right, towards your goal.
Let me put it like this, Frontier. If you are
Okay.
hungry,
Right.
are you just going to talk about it? Are you just going to say, I'm hungry, and years are
No,
going to
you
go
would go to the
by
kitchen, microwave whatever
and eat?
delicacies are there, and yeah, feed yourself, right?
So that is a real desire where you
Huh.
want something and
Yeah.
you will take action to do it.
Yeah.
Versus someone just saying, I want to lose weight, I want to
Hmm.
lose weight for 10 years
Right.
straight and they look the same.
Hmm.
So, firstly, you need to have real desire. And
Hmm.
secondly, you need to have the discipline to execute over the long run.
Hmm.
So, if someone is looking for like a program, I made
Hmm.
one. It's called Live
Hmm.
Intentionally 90 Day Self Improvement Program. You can find it on gum.co/stuff.
Harsh, do you offer people mentorships? Like,
No,
I'm sorry, like, okay, so you don't do that. You just, if people want to buy that program, they can go through that, but it's not a mentorship that way.
the program is just a structured thing for a lot of people who struggle with
Okay,
discipline. So
right,
I'm not trying to like pitch it and like oversell it or anything here.
right.
I'm
No,
just
no, I mean,
mentioning
like,
it
this is
because
completely unplanned. I am asking all
yeah,
these questions and bothering Harsh.
no.
He
So
had no plans to discuss this, by the way, guys.
earlier you mentioned the question you asked was how do I be more disciplined in a
Yeah,
way,
right,
and had a
right.
product for that, so I just thought I would mention it.
Okay, sure. Yeah, man.
But the
Yeah,
second aspect of masculinity that I wanted to discuss was
right.
that the thing that you want to do, the thing that your goal is, has to be your goal, in the sense that a lot of people, when they say their goal is something,
Hmm.
it's that goal because they've been manipulated by society and kind of been conned into believing that is their goal. For
Okay.
example, if I tell you, if when someone
Hmm.
says my goal is to get a great job, are
Right.
you sure your goal is to get a great job, or is that your goal because
Right.
people have been saying that to you since you were a small kid?
You've seen all these like random people who make TikTok videos and reels and pretend to be Salman Khan on the streets.
Hmm.
I mean, isn't that mass brainwashing of people wanting to be Bollywood celebrities? And probably they don't really want that. It's just they've been told by the media that this is the number one best thing you can do in your life.
The media tends to
I
glorify entertainers, yes, and
Yeah,
it does catch on. So
yeah,
that is definitely a negative on our society
hmm,
and culture for sure. But idiots will be
hmm,
idiots, and
yeah,
so you
yeah.
can't
There's
help
no
them.
shortage, man.
No shortage of idiots. But the desire, like whatever your goals are, they have to be yours, and you have to be honest about them. You can't change your goal just to
Harsh,
call
as an
yourself a
example in
man.
your life, like, can you give an example from your life when you decided at a certain age, okay, I want to do this in the next 1 year, 2 years, like, and then you work towards that, making sure you pushed yourself.
Well, a simple example that I can give you with proof is the fact that I
Okay.
completed CA for 5 years, right? It
Hmm.
took 4 or 5 years to become a CA.
Right. Right.
And then I decided to go all in into online business. I started an affiliate marketing company and I do
Yeah.
LMM. And
Yeah.
currently, I also started a Web3 education company, the one I just told you about,
Right.
none of which is related to CA. So I spent
Yeah.
4.5 years working for CA, like, getting this degree.
Yeah.
And then I don't do anything related to it.
Yeah. Basically, you learned accountancy, crypto, finance, tech, matlab, literally
I
hands in so
spent
many pies.
5 years after CA learning computer
Huh.
science while I was
Oh,
building my
wow.
online businesses.
Oh, wow. So you can program on your own as well.
Yes.
Wow, that is quite impressive. I don't think there are a lot of CAs who can claim to do that. I think generally it's not seen as like a useful thing, right, in the profession.
It is the most useful knowledge you can have today.
Yeah, I think for any profession, right, gives you again leverage.
I don't know about any profession, but any idea you want, anything you
Hmm.
want to do, you can do once you know. It's like the scale in singing. If you know the scales,
Hmm.
then you can sing any song.
So you program with Python, C++, and all.
I can program in any language, in the sense that
Okay.
learning programming, like learning computer science and programming, is like learning to play the guitar.
Hmm.
But once you know how to play the guitar, you don't have to relearn how to play the guitar in
Right.
Chinese, Spanish,
Harsh,
English.
I actually had a suggestion. Like maybe once the crypto thing is done,
Mhm.
could have like an introductory, maybe certificate kind of course online for people who actually don't come from like a CS proper, like a math background, to kind of introduce them to like basic programming and stuff. I think there'd be a
There
lot
is
of
a
people
course.
pretty
There are
interested.
many courses on the internet, and you can just find them on Coursera.
Okay, okay.
Here's a course I would recommend for someone who wants an introduction to computer science.
Oh,
Uh,
sure. I'll
there
be
is a
glad if you
course
share it.
by Eric Grimson from MITx. It's on edX,
Okay.
and you can find the course. I don't remember what I think it's called six
Sorry, can you
point.
repeat that? Eric.
Eric Grimson,
Okay. edX, right?
edX. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
I got
course is called Introduction to Computer Science and Programming in Python. It's a very good course, and this was the first course I did in my computer science degree that I self taught. And the full,
Wow.
if you want to self learn computer science, there is something called the Open Source Society University where you
Okay.
can learn computer science from scratch. And this
Right.
is not like a time pass
Hmm.
education on computer science. All the courses are
Right.
from like MIT, Harvard, Stanford, etc. And they've
But it's
reconstructed
fairly
the degree.
accessible. It's not like a very expensive thing or anything like that,
It's
right?
free.
Oh, wow. Yeah, then like nothing like it, because generally people kind of have this concern, right? That these Western degrees and all these expensive courses,
No,
all in dollars and euros, will bankrupt me.
the course is completely there. It's a different. It's a bunch of MOOCs being put together to
Yeah.
recreate a computer
Right.
science degree, and all the courses are free. The only
Right.
thing is that it takes a lot of discipline to learn something over a period of 5 years.
Right. No one else is going to push you, right?
Yeah, so
In these
the big
courses.
issue with these MOOCs is that the average person who takes them
Hmm.
lacks the discipline to finish them.
Yeah. True. I mean, like, even if I remember college myself, like, how many classes can I remember which I would have probably not even attended if I didn't need to attend them for attendance rules, right? And a lot of guys are like that, unfortunately, where you don't have that discipline to push yourself. It's just you're following, rules like kind of like a sheep in a herd, which is pretty sad, man. Like,
You could say that. I think that college in India, I would say, for most degrees,
yeah,
is just a waste. I didn't go to college, so I am
yeah,
technically a 12th
absolutely agree.
pass.
I think that was one of your first tweets, which I retweeted. Indian colleges are basically, I think, the degree mills, most of them. Just,
I think the problem is that in India, the value of education is more of social status,
yeah.
in the sense that if you are not, let's say that you are not a graduate, okay,
Hmm.
then most people will consider you to be like someone who is uneducated. Like if you're a
Right.
girl and you're a graduate,
Hmm.
and then you are not educated enough and you will have trouble
Huh.
getting married. And the same if you're a
Yeah.
guy and you're
Right.
not a graduate, then you'll have trouble
You
getting
can't
married,
get
etc.
married and start a family. Yeah.
Yeah, and
People basically won't take you seriously as,
yeah,
like,
you will be
a normal person again.
yeah, you will not be, on par socially. And
Yeah.
there are
Kind of, you'll be
exceptions to
falling
this.
down to that again, maid level.
Yeah, you will be treated in that way.
Yeah.
But there are exceptions in the sense, for example, I'm 12th pass and no one thinks of me this way.
Yeah. But again, that the distinction is that, like, your degree, like your professional
No, I don't
degree,
even tell
right?
people. I never mention I'm a CA. I tell people I'm a 12th
Okay.
pass.
Oh, damn. And like they don't judge generally, like in India also.
A lot of it comes down to how you present yourself, in the sense that my English
Of
is very
course.
smooth.
Right.
So they don't presume it in a negative way. So that's why I was
And
telling
generally, I
you.
think you're a pretty confident guy. So I think that plays a role too, right? Like if you present yourself confidently that I can debate anyone on anything. I don't need a degree to do that. And you are no smarter than me. If you have that confidence, I think, yeah, then people also think, okay, maybe he doesn't have a degree, but he does have something else, right?
I don't think the degree matters at all, in the sense that a lot
But
of
again,
the,
dude, 90% of the guys, they're not going to be like that. I think,
I agree with you
eventually.
there. 90% of guys will
And
not
they
be like
they
that.
just need that degree to kind of, tell people, no, I'm also educated. I also went to college. Look, I'm a real, educated intellectual type.
I don't
It's
think
just an
people
ego thing.
present it in that way. I have never seen someone act high five because they went to college. Never in my life, ever.
Yeah.
But there is a psychological thing where
Yeah.
if you say that you are 12th pass, okay, someone is a 12th pass, let's say, but
Hmm.
their communication skills are not as good,
Right.
then they will be thought of as like a semi educated savage.
Right.
So a lot of things come down to how you communicate, how you present yourself, etc.
Right.
So that there's a big factor there, right? Why do you treat your maid as if she was a
Hmm.
second class citizen? Because
Right.
she can't communicate with you on your level.
Right.
And if she could, then you
Yeah.
would not consider
Of
her to be
course.
a second class
Yeah.
citizen. So
In
why
fact,
is it in
I'd
the
probably
West?
feel afraid to even order around. Like, to be honest, that's how most Indians are. They order around the servants so easily because the servants can't speak properly in that language, right? Of the superior.
Yeah, and there are more psychological reasons for it because
Hmm.
the servant is not opposing it. He's like happy to be ordered around.
Yeah.
But in the West, for example, let's take a country where everyone speaks English. The
Hmm.
waiter communicates with you in your language, right?
Hmm.
So you don't see him as someone who's inferior. You just see him as someone who's working like a
Right.
cheap job.
Right. Right.
So that is the
And
difference.
yeah. And quite often these people also went to a fairly okay college. Many of these people also, let's say, have a pretty decent phone, live an okay life, middle class lifestyle. It's not that they're living hand to mouth, right? In India, we imagine if you're blue collar, that essentially means that you're like one missed paycheck away from almost like ending on the street starving, right? I mean, that's how people see poverty here still, and because it is like pretty extreme, right?
It is getting better though as the years go
Yeah.
by. I think COVID was a huge setback.
Hmm. Yeah, I think we do have like more spread out. I think social safety nets also from the government's end. Like even if you don't have any money, I think generally you're not going to starve unless like you can't even figure out how to get the free food.
Yeah, I don't think people are starving. Like, there's no one who's starving in the sense that if someone is
Yeah,
starving, they can go to a local gurudwara and get food.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
or at local temple, etc. So people
yeah,
are not dying of hunger for sure. But
yeah.
I do think that there is a lot of scope for improvement in the fact that of education
Right,
because it is not just about feeding people. How do
right.
you actually get someone out of poverty?
Hmm.
The way you get them out of poverty is that you give them the education, the skills,
Right.
and mindsets they need to get themselves out of poverty.
But Harsh, like to be honest, sometimes when I feel a little skeptical about the promises, let's say, which the government makes on its end, right? You see, in so many cases, you must have seen the person who's delivering your package, like your food packages,
Hmm.
Zomato, Dunzo, these services. Many of those guys are also fairly educated, like maybe not from a very good university, but many of them have master's degrees. Many of them
Yes,
might even be have like a PhD or something in very rare cases. But what's the point if we're producing so many again like higher education graduates who just have the degrees, and in the end they can't really do anything much better than ride a two-wheeler and deliver orders? Like, what was the point in going through that process for them? Like they could have just started working at 18 then, like if this is the end result, right?
I agree with you there. I think that
I think the government really has failed, I think, on that
no,
end, to
this
be
is not the
honest.
government's fault. This
You'd say it's a private like individual fault at that level.
There are multiple factors here, okay?
Okay, sure, please. Yeah.
I think there are a lot of people who are not extremely intelligent, and
Hmm.
we are in a world where intelligence pays. So, for
Yeah.
example, if you are someone whose IQ is not very high and you
Right.
went to college, college is not
Right.
going to make you smart.
Yeah.
It's just going to give you a
Right.
degree.
And it might give a little bit more access, but yeah, it won't make you smart.
Yeah,
Like
but
if
the
you're not
degree
smart.
is just a piece of paper, right? What actually,
Yeah.
if you let's take like, let me say something very basic, okay? Let's not even talk about a
Right.
business because a business requires some capital,
Right.
some risk taking, and some backing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's take someone who wants to work a job.
Right.
Why should someone hire you? Well, they will hire you when you can provide them something the business needs, okay? For sure. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. Of course. If you can
Now,
provide a service which benefits the employer, of course
yeah,
he'll
of
hire
course
you.
he wants you. The question
Right.
is how many of these graduates have the
Actually, can do
intelligence,
that. Huh.
capability,
Huh.
and mindset to provide that service? And how much is that service worth?
Hmm.
In the sense that
Right.
If someone is a graduate, okay, but they are not
Right.
intelligent, and the service they can provide to me, Harsh, is
Hmm.
worth say 3,000 rupees a month, and
Right.
it's only worth that. I don't know, for whatever reason, this guy is not
Huh.
smart, or he doesn't
Yeah.
have the right skills, or
But
whatever
of
it is.
course, he will say that you're being an asshole because you are not paying him more than. I mean, from his perspective, he'll keep criticizing the boss, right?
Yeah, but that's a different thing. Like the way the free
Right.
market works is that I will only hire
Right.
him if I think I can make a profit by hiring
Right.
him. Now,
Right.
the Swiggy
And this is
company
where the
or the
socialist
Zomato
intellectual
company,
types will come brainwashing folks.
yeah, but it hasn't worked, and it's like doesn't work.
Yeah.
Works in theory, not in real life.
Yeah. So
If you
I
take,
mean, like,
go
huh?
ahead.
Please, yeah, go ahead. Like, actually, want to listen to your views on macroeconomics as well.
No, you were mentioning the whole food delivery
Ah.
industry. So if the food delivery industry
Hmm.
pays more than 3,000 rupees, then
Then
even though
he.
this guy has a
Hmm.
degree, it makes sense for him to
Right.
deliver food.
Right.
And yeah,
Rather than work for
in
three
this
thousand.
case, the degree, like, don't you see it right now? Like, the degree itself is worthless, right? The guy
Right.
could have done this thing without the
Hmm.
degree. The only reason he got this degree was some social thing.
Right. Basically, the manipulation I think initially you're pointing towards, right? That if
It's
you
not
want to be,
manipulation. I would say it's just like a trend in society where
yeah,
if you don't
like
have a
following the
degree,
herd.
you're like a
Yeah.
savage.
Yeah. Basically, again, it's not exactly manipulation, but I would call it a psyop. Like psychologically, you are being told that if you don't get a degree, you are a useless person, and many people can't really get out of that media conditioning, right?
I would say it's a social trend, and there is like
Okay.
just because I would not say it's a psyop in the sense that it's just like a
As a
there are
pretty
real world
extreme.
consequences in the sense that if there's a guy
Hmm,
and he's a 12th pass, he's going to
yeah.
have a lot of trouble getting married. So there are real world consequences
Right.
of not having a degree, and if he has a degree, then he's educated
Right.
and he won't have as much trouble getting married. So it's not a psyop is something that doesn't change anything in the real world, just changes you. But here there
Okay.
are actual consequences societally
Hmm.
for having and not having a degree. So
But Harsh, do you think there's a point of saturation where even that doesn't change? Like let's say your marital prospects and these things. Like for example, let's say Western countries today,
mhm,
where the degree markets have become, let's say, so saturated that you see these posts where some guy is applying to be like a barista or like a basic job like that. They say you need 3 years 3 4 years of experience and a master's degree in whatever. As like it's kind of like these memes and jokes which go around,
it's
but
true
that
though.
kind of tells you that these societies, even those masters degrees and all those people, what is it helping them with? Like, and I think they're essentially with regard to status and all, right? Again, these things don't matter that much anyways, isn't it? So that is like proper saturation, I guess, at that point,
I agree
where it
with you
makes no
there.
sense.
I
Hmm.
think what happened to this industry of college was that back in the day, say 30 years ago,
Yeah.
only a select few people were going to college, and they were like the
Hmm.
best brightest people, right? Like you had to be really
Yeah.
intelligent to get into college. Getting into college was actually a difficult thing to do.
Yeah, there's so few colleges also.
Yeah, so there was real value of a college degree where it was actually
Yeah.
selecting for high IQ individuals, where
I think
someone,
essentially getting a degree was like a straight ticket to like at least middle management and then maybe even upper management in big companies, right? That's what it was seen as, like a ticket to a comfy job for the rest of your life.
yes, but the why was it the case? Why was it a ticket to a comfy job? Was the fact that only
Hmm.
intelligent people were getting into college because getting
Right.
into college was actually difficult.
Right. Right.
Versus today,
Hmm.
any idiot can go to
Any
college.
idiot can, yeah.
So there is no selection factor.
Yeah.
And
I
if
think you can
anyone is going to
essentially have
college,
like in 75 IQ and probably get into some degree college or the other in India also.
yeah, so I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but the overall value of a college degree
Hmm. Is
will,
definitely on the decline.
yeah,
Right. Do you think this is a bit off topic, but do you think particular professions have been much more adversely affected by this kind of degree inflation compared to others? like engineering, of course, is probably the biggest example where, like, every Tom, Dick, and Harry is like carrying around degree saying I'm an engineer and can't really do any actual engineering, right?
Hmm.
And but with other fields, like, let's say, CA, CS, lawyers not so much, but to an extent even doctors, these fields I don't think I've seen that level of degree or credential inflation, right? So
Because
their
to
supplies
become
are,
a CACS doctor is actually hard.
yeah.
It's not something that anyone can do, in the sense that
But you have autonomous bodies essentially, right, which are maintaining that control over supply, which is not there in engineering, I believe.
in engineering, how many people fail engineering? No one fails engineering, okay?
Yeah.
So anyone can become an engineer. All they need to do is
Huh.
spend 3 years. But take
Yeah.
something like CA. If
Hmm.
you are not good enough, you will fail.
What is
So
the failure rate for CAs, like, overall? More than 90-95%, right?
yes,
Yeah, it's it's not an easy thing at all.
it's just a selection thing where you only want people who know their stuff and
Hmm.
have a certain amount of caliber
Hmm.
to get this degree.
But at the end of the day, similarly, all these 90% guys can pretty easily become engineers, right? Or even
Yes,
lawyers and all.
exactly.
Yeah, and they can then compete freely in those professions. But CAs, that if a guy is saying that I'm a CA and I have this credential, you know for a fact that he has crossed that process and he's at least going to have like a bare minimum, level of intelligence. Is not gonna like mess up, all these big calculations. But like, let's say with many of these random lawyers, like, I come from the legal field, right?
Hmm.
So who have, like, a law degree from some random XYZ degree college from some tier 3 city or something. No offense to like smaller colleges, but generally they're not that good, right?
Yes.
And the atmosphere and the teachers you get, they just aren't that good. And when you get that degree, like, and the thing is, they pass all the students anyways eventually. You get that degree, you enroll in the bar, and essentially you have a license to prey on the public. As a lawyer, that is what you're doing, right? You can file a case against anyone, you can represent anyone, you can make any sorts of contracts. It's such a, like, a pretty lethal power in a sense, which is given out to so many random, I think even 80, 90 IQ dudes who are probably going to end up misusing it a lot. I know I'm being very anti legal profession right now, but yeah.
Well, I would not say it's a bad thing. I would just say that the free market solves it out, right? The shitty lawyers will become,
Hmm.
say, food delivery guys. And no offense
Yeah.
to food delivery guys, but it's not a very intellectual
Yeah,
profession.
actually, we don't want to compare you to these black coat people, but
Hey, I have
man, that
nothing
was
against
a
lawyers,
low
okay?
bloat. That was
I
not right,
have
man.
lots of great lawyers. I was a consultant for a while, so
Oh,
lots of my friends are lawyers. Nothing against lawyers here,
yeah.
but
I'm sure those guys must be decent,
what I'm trying to
not
tell you
like
is
these
that
guys.
it's a good thing that more people are becoming lawyers,
Hmm.
because it gives more people a chance to actually fight in the race. And if they're
Okay.
good, then they'll succeed in a meritocratic system.
Okay.
And if they're not,
But
then
you
they will
wouldn't
not.
say that that logic can apply in a field like CA then?
The difference between something like
Hmm.
a lawyer and a CA is that a
Right.
CA is an auditor. So
Sorry, CA is an auditor.
is an
Right.
auditor. So
Yeah.
it's like he has authority to sign certain documents and certify certain
Right.
things.
Right.
So it is not a free market competition where if you're a good lawyer, you will win cases. If
Hmm.
you're a bad lawyer, you will lose cases.
But
Any
like,
CA
Harsh
can
isn't.
certify documents.
Hmm.
Listen to me.
Is it?
So
Yeah.
any
Please go
CA
on.
can certify a document. So this is not like a free in the sense that if you are a bad CA, okay, let's say
Hmm.
they make everyone a CA,
Right.
they will certify any
Hmm.
document without being able to check it.
Okay.
So there's a difference there, right? This is not a free market profession where
Okay.
they are competing directly with each other and the cream rises to the
Right.
top.
But if I had to give you a counter example, like your friends, let's say, who are attorneys, right, who
Hmm.
are enrolled in the bar, in a lot of legal documents, even they would have that power, right, to essentially affix their signature as the attorney, right, and
Hmm.
sort of give that legal weight. So, isn't that kind of similar?
No,
Okay.
because a lawyer does not have special rights and privileges in the law
Okay.
to certify things. For example, if you want a loan or something,
Hmm.
or you want to submit something to the government, it has to be
Okay.
like it has to be certified by the CA to be true.
Okay.
Versus, I'm not aware of anything that has to be certified by a lawyer. Like if you have a case
Okay.
and you're like a lawyer can sign something, send a letter, that's a
Hmm.
different thing, right? But
Hmm.
I'm not aware of anything where the government requires that the lawyer sign this.
So I think there are certain, I think, types of share transactions and stuff. I think it just gives it more legal weight. But
Yeah,
I think
but it's
your
not a
point is correct.
requirement.
Yeah, it's not a requirement. I think it just gives it more, I think, weight in a court. I think your point is correct, because essentially an auditor's word, you're saying, when it comes to any financial transactions, is like the final word, right?
Hmm.
Which any regulatory body will believe, right? And not the lawyer's word,
Yes,
because the lawyer will probably bungle up the numbers anyways.
yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that is
I
why.
get what you're saying, huh?
So if you take something like someone like a doctor or a surgeon, okay, you can't make everyone a surgeon because it's not a free market. It is in a way free market, but someone who
Yeah,
messes up is going to kill people.
yeah, true.
So something like a doctor will
Hmm.
ideally have high standards, but a
Right.
CA or someone who has special authority or power, or
Hmm.
doing something wrong, will have severe negative consequences, will
Right.
have higher standards of
Right.
entry.
Harsh, I'm just curious to ask this. So, like in India, we've had this culture of having so many scams and these multi-million dollar controversies, corruption cases, and all that.
Hmm.
So, when people think about these kind of cases, they generally think there's some politician who takes a bag and takes the cash and send it to Switzerland or something. But honestly, aren't like actually like on the other end of the law, they're probably very smart CAs who are working for these guys as well, right? Who actually help carry these things out. It's a bit unrelated, but
Probably, in the sense that you know the politician sometimes
hmm,
it is a lot like taking money in a bag and then sending it to Switzerland.
right.
Like sometimes it is a lot like that.
And I think this is related to your point about standards, right? I know that CA exams are not testing for honesty or something, but still, if you don't have any standard at all, any Tom, Dick, and Harry, if they get a CA credential, then it's going to be a lot easier to find such people willing to, cook the book, so to speak, right?
Yes, but unfortunately,
Huh.
even with high standards, it is not that difficult to find such people.
Yeah, that is, I think, quite unfortunate, but that is, I guess, the way the world works. Harsh, do you want to wrap up? I think it's been more than an hour. I don't want to take up too much of your time. If you want to say anything else, we can.
Nothing in particular. Is there any
Okay.
question or something you want to ask me?
Yeah, actually, one or two questions I do want to ask you.
Hmm.
So Harsh, you're also 26, right?
Yes.
So a lot of people here will also be reading, manosphere blogs and stuff, right? From
Hmm.
these Western bloggers and writers.
Yes.
So one of the things which I find, which is repeated quite a bit, is that they say that when you're a young guy, right,
Hmm.
like in your early to mid 20s or something, making decent money, you have that kind of lifestyle, you
Hmm.
should try and always be in a like a tier one city or like a proper like big city.
Hmm.
Do you think that makes sense for young guys, like in a place like India?
Yes.
Because okay, why would you say though? Like
Because
same
it gives you
reasoning.
more exposure. I have been
Okay.
to a lot of villages in my life, right?
Hmm.
And typically, what I've noticed is that they tend to have their way of life and they're not aware of anything else. And
Okay.
they tend to think of city life as some sort of evil and,
Hmm.
very degraded,
Yeah.
or
It's
like
but it's actually envy, right? Like
not exactly
in a
envy.
way.
They have valid points, but
Hmm.
I think it is good for someone who's young to experience more of a cultural melting
Hmm.
point, which cities tend to be. I
But do you
think
think
there is
once you
value.
settle down in these cities, it is actually possible to really move back? Let's say you have a family and everything in a city like that and a job, then moving to a completely different atmosphere. People say that that is unrealistic and stuff.
I don't know because I've never had to do it. I grew up in a city, so I had
Yeah,
an
I think we
advantage
need
there.
older guests for to answer these kind of
But I
questions.
can tell you for a
Yeah.
fact that it will be harder. But
Okay.
I do agree with with these guys when they say, and I don't really read a lot of manosphere blogs, so I have no idea
Okay.
if they are actually saying
I
this.
mean, Rushvi has become an Orthodox Christian. I don't know what we can really do to change things now. It's gone a very different direction.
I don't know much about Rushvi. I think the fact
Okay.
that being unmarried for so long
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
not having children at certain age is going to catch up to you, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Especially, I think in your 30s and middle ages when you see everyone settling down, no?
yeah, I don't want to comment in a negative way about Rushvi because
Right.
I don't know the guy,
Right.
never talked to
Of
him
course.
ever.
Yeah.
But
No,
yeah,
no, he's not a dangerous guy, I think, hopefully.
no, not
He,
as a danger thing, but I typically do not want to
of course.
comment on things or people I do not
Yeah. No,
understand or
that
have
that's
not
a that's
studied.
a thing which I admire. Like you've never really, even on Twitter, you don't talk behind people's back and you know uh, do stuff like that. So yeah,
Yeah, but I will say there is definitely value in living in a city, or at least for
right.
a while, like at least for 6 months. If someone is, say, in
Hmm.
Uttarakhand, like you were in a village, and you
Hmm.
come down to, say, Pune, it's a different world, right? And
Yeah.
you can't
Yeah. Yeah.
really
I mean,
hypothesize.
I was in Dehradun, so Pune is like almost I think 7 8 times bigger than Dehradun in terms of just population, probably more than that. And there's so many things which are just not going to be available in tier two, tier three cities, right?
Yes, so there are advantages to being
Hmm.
in a city for a while. You learn a lot,
Yeah.
and it is
Yeah.
worth it.
Hmm. Right. It and it. I mean, you meet so many different kinds of people. Like in the sense, like coming from not just different parts of the country, but so many different class backgrounds, so many different languages, so many different accents, right? Which you wouldn't even think of, in a more rural or a small town setting, right?
Hmm.
You wouldn't get that exposure where you would kind of be able to differentiate what does a rich person from South Delhi sound like, what does a rich person from South Bombay sound like, what is the difference between Hyderabadi NRIs and South Bombay types. Matlab, all these things, which I mean it seems very frivolous and trivial, but later on, when you're maneuvering through social circles, you these things do come in handy, right? When you can make out what kind of background a person has, what kind of things they're comfortable with, and that helps, I think, really, like with networking and stuff, definitely.
Social experience compounds.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, Harsh, I think we can end with that. If you want to say anything else, please feel free. Otherwise, I don't know when again you'll be free. It almost feels like if we could do like a part two some other time, we can have like more audience questions as well beforehand.
Sounds good. I'd be interested in that. So nothing
Sure,
else. If
man.
someone wants to find me, they can find
Huh.
me on lifemathmoney.com
Yeah, I'll.
or my
Yeah,
Twitter handle lifemathmoney, and that's where I'm
yeah,
usually at.
yeah. I'll share your Telegram on my Telegram, your Twitter on my Twitter, and your website. My website defunct. I'll share it on my Substack.
Oh,
I
nice. You
think
have a
that should
Substack.
be fair.
Sounds good. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, Harsh. So I'll just close the recording.
Hmm.
Thank you, guys. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Please comment with suggestions for the future, and maybe for part two, if you have questions, we can start compiling them right away. So yeah, I hope everyone got something out of this. Thank you so much again, Harsh. It was a real pleasure, man. Absolutely.
Likewise, brother. Have a great day.
Yeah. Thank you so much, bro.